It was a crime so daring, so meticulously orchestrated, that it left the world reeling. No gunfire, no bloodshed, just precision, planning, and a fortune stolen from under Britain's nose. This is the story of the Great Train Robbery, the perfect crime that came at a terrible cost. In the early hours of August 8, 1963, as Britain slumbered, a Royal Mail train steamed through the countryside from Glasgow to London. On board was a treasure trove, £2.6 million in used banknotes being transferred in absolute secrecy. That's over £50 million in today's money. But someone else knew the secret too, and they had a plan. Meet Bruce Reynolds, a charismatic thief, smooth talker, and master planner. He wasn't just looking for a payday. He wanted legend. Reynolds wasn't alone. He assembled a crew like something out of a heist film. 15 men, each an expert in his field. Among them, Ronnie Biggs, the charming ex-con. Charlie Wilson, the enforcer. Buster Edwards, the hustler with street smarts. And Roger Corddry, the meticulous electronics man. But even they couldn't do it alone. They had help from the inside. An anonymous informant, known only as the Ulsterman, leaked the train's movements. To this day, his true identity remains a mystery. They were so close to slipping into the shadows, their operations so flawless, that not even the finest police minds could have predicted what was coming next. At about 3 a.m., under the cover of darkness, the gang struck near Bordago Bridge, their plan unfolding like clockwork. With no time to spare, the signals were tampered with, the train came to a screeching halt, and the Great Train Robbery began. No guns were fired. The only real violence was when the train driver, Jack Mills, resisted and was clubbed on the head. He survived, but that moment would cast a long shadow over the gang's non-violent image. In just 30 minutes, the robbers detached the car containing the cash, moved it to a nearby track, and unloaded 128 sacks of money into waiting trucks. The gang vanished into the night, leaving Britain in disbelief. If you could pull off one perfect heist without harming anyone, would you do it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. No judgment here, just curiosity. The gang holed up at Leatherslade Farm, a rented property miles away. There, they counted the money, brick by brick, laughing, smoking, and living large. Reynolds insisted they lay low for weeks, letting the heat die down. But they wouldn't have it, and that was their first mistake. In their celebration, their arrogance grew. It was as though they believed they were untouchable, playing Monopoly with their spoils, leaving fingerprints all over their victory. Though many had cheered their audacity, the gang was not celebrated for their cunning. The law was hunting them, not just for their crime, but for the embarrassment they had inflicted on the very institutions meant to uphold order. Scotland Yard launched one of the biggest manhunts in British history. The public was both horrified and fascinated. The robbers were almost folk heroes, rebels who had embarrassed the establishment. But to the police, they were a stain on British law and order that had to be erased. The gang didn't get far. One by one, they were picked off. Charlie Wilson was betrayed by a tip. Buster Edwards was tracked to Mexico. Bruce Reynolds fled for 5 years, only to be caught in 1968. Ronnie Biggs escaped prison and fled to Brazil, living a bizarre life as an international fugitive, appearing in songs, interviews, and tabloids. The trials were sensational. The robbers were handed harsh sentences, some exceeding 30 years. Not just for the crime, but for the embarrassment they caused the state. As the years passed, the Great Train Robbery became legend, immortalized in books, films, and pop culture. But behind the myth was a darker truth. Jack Mills, the train driver, never fully recovered from his injuries. Some say he was never the same, emotionally or physically. The gang? They paid the price. Some died in prison. Some lived in hiding. Even Ronnie Biggs, once the symbol of defiance, returned to the UK in 2001, old, sick, and tired of running. Bruce Reynolds, the mastermind, said near the end of his life, "We were just ordinary guys who had an extraordinary moment. But I lost more than I gained." In a world obsessed with anti-heroes, the Great Train Robbers were the blueprint. Flawed men chasing fortune, forever changed by one perfect plan. But even the cleanest heist leaves behind a trail of pain, regret, and unfinished stories. In the end, all that was left were faded memories of a heist that rocked the nation, and men who had dared to defy fate only to be undone by it. So ask yourself, was it really the perfect crime, or just the most famous mistake? If you could pull off the perfect heist without harming anyone, would you? What would you do with the money, and would you ever walk away? Do you think the gang deserved those harsh sentences for a crime that didn't kill anyone? Or were they punished more for embarrassing the authorities? If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more chilling crime tales and criminal minds unraveled. And don't forget to tell us, what would you have done with £2.6 million?